welcome to the episode, a podcast about podcasting, and today we're talking about knowing your audience.
Hello.
We're joined here today.
Hello.
Hi. Johan and Edward are with us today.
Cool.
And it's the team.
So I've selected this one about knowing your audience, because I think some people, when they start off doing a podcast, they kind of want to just do it, and they kind of hope the audience kind of comes to them. Which,
please like my podcast.
please. we said in previous episodes how sometimes at the very beginning you just got to asking your family and friends to like your thing, which sometimes feels a bit odd to ask. It's like, Mum, can you please sign up to my podcast, please?
Well, everyone's got to start somewhere, though, haven't they? Really?
They do.
Yeah.
But eventually, over time, after that, you'll get more audience. People who aren't your family and friends, I know, shock horror, that like your stuff for your stuff. So the idea is, how do we keep that, and what do we do with it, really?
And how do you get your new audience to be your new family? Because that
deep.
That is, I'm a member of a community on podcasts sometimes, and they do end up feeling like a little family of friends. The community, when you have a Discord or something like that for like a friend group, like on Facebook or on Discord, you end up like having that little community that you've built. That could go on after that podcast is, if that podcast finished, you could just end up, that community might carry on, So.
Yeah, group of people.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, obviously today we have got discussion points. I've got all my notes here.
Yes.
And we're going to just fire through a couple of points and talk about them.
Sure.
So our first point we're going to discuss today is, why do we need to know our audience?
It's down to two things, I think. I think Ed will kind of agree with it. It's down to it will help with the content that you make. If you know your audience, because then if you know your audience, you can then aim your content or your podcast or your themes in the fashion that their audience wants, right? So that's one thing. The other bit as well is mostly that once you get to know them a bit more, and sometimes you get like, I'm not saying like the super fans, but something like that, but you get someone who's like really into your stuff, that really then becomes almost like an authentic kind of like, not parasocial, but kind of like that kind of friendship.
Yeah.
That means then you know more about your audience, more just like genuinely, and that gives it like a really nice sort of authenticity to it, I think.
And you can hone the content around that demographic, can't you?
Yeah. With some of our video stuff back in the day, we actually have a few people that are always liking our stuff, always commenting about our stuff. And that's really nice. And that shows that we recognize, oh, there you are. And that's kind of a nice feeling to it. That's why knowing your audience is. And also to bend the content that way.
Yeah. We always get 30 to 50-year-old men, don't we? That's our content. Our demographic.
Sums up our demographic. But it is true.
So when you first start your podcast, is it ideal to already have in mind who is my audience? Who's going to be listening to me?
Kinda. I think that will help.
It will definitely help. I mean, when a lot of people don't do that, some people just they're so excited about making stuff, they don't think about that and they just launch straight into it, and then but you can still recover from that if you then look at your stats and analytics and realize, oh, actually these are the people that are listening. Then you can just kind of shape it slightly.
Some of it's a discovery though, and I'm gonna throw something not podcast related, but this is something that I sort of discovered. So I work with making cards. I do sometimes do like card games and so on and so forth. One of the interesting things is taking, let's say, my card game and just take my product to a convention where there's the audience is there and you go and pick them up. It's interesting what you discover there, how maybe you'd realize there's a fully untapped audience that seem to really like it, but because you've never thought about it, you missed out. Like, for example, the card games I made, I always thought they were kind of like weirdly a little bit more like male orientated. Turns out it's mostly, for my games, it's mostly the girlfriends who are far more interested in my games, and they're more interested in bringing their boyfriends along to say like, oh, I found this really cool thing, honey, you're playing with me. And I said like, that's a whole audience now that I did not tap on.
Yeah.
So it's like 20 to 30-year-old women who are partners. And that's something I didn't even consider.
So I suppose you're going from that narrow kind of minded, this is who I'm going to target, being a little bit more broad minded to think, actually, it's still going to pull in other people. So you want to have a bit of a broader range of a spectrum of who you're going to target, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And that's a sort of the like I said, the discovery of it. We'll be looking at the analytics of this podcast, and it would be nice to see what kinds of people get to listen to us.
Yeah.
And then from there we can go like, oh, maybe it's aimed younger. So maybe what we'll do is maybe be a bit more exploratory. Maybe it's a little bit that way. Maybe it's older. So if it's older, then we go a bit more mature about it, or vice versa. We will adjust it.
Yeah.
But not by a crazy amount, I think.
So obviously we've mentioned quite a lot about who's listening to us, which actually brings us greatly onto my next point.
Oh, goodness.
About voices.
Yeah.
How important is it for our audience to be hearing our voices? How do our voices connect and reach people?
Ed had a really, really good thing this morning. He discussed something that I think sums it up, really.
It's strange, really. Sometimes I listen. I've got a podcast that I listen to on a regular basis, listen to them for years, and it suddenly dawned on me, like I think yesterday, that I wasn't listening to what they were saying, but I was comforted just by hearing their voice, which sounds really odd.
Like a lullaby.
But it's like I'm hanging out with them, and now and again, it's more a case of like I'm not always interested in that particular topic, that episode, but there's a relationship that's been built between the listener and the host of that podcast. That's connection.
Yeah.
And it's like hanging out with your friends. It's an odd thing.
I know what you mean.
I'm not listening to what they're saying anymore, but I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I've actually done that a lot of times with one that I listen to. I'll go out for a bit of a walk with my earpods in, and I realise I haven't listened to anything you just said, but you're just here with me. And I often find myself having to rewind to go back because I'll be trained off with my thoughts, and it's that friendship kind of circle, isn't it, I suppose, and feeling like you're around other people.
You don't get that from any other video content at all. It's only podcasts you get that kind of connection.
Because it's more directly like into your headphones sometimes, right? And a lot of people nowadays are having headphones as they're walking around, or AirPods, or whatever they're doing, because, and this has actually been scientifically proven, the world is louder now. The world is actually noisier, and so they're having their headphones on, and half the time they're having a podcast, so you're just hearing 2 or 3 people having some banter, having some chat. And that's the only thing you hear if you have noise reducing headphones. So basically you are now fully invested in it, and that means you pick up on like phrases, you pick up on like personality things, you do that. So that's why when you are doing a thing, most of the time you want a really good your voice to be like your personality to shine through, because that's what people are more interested in, is how you are as a person.
Yeah, I think as awful as it sounds, I've actually started listening to podcasts before where I've switched off because I actually didn't like the way that it was being delivered, the voice sort of thing, and
the people.
It sounds awful, but if you don't connect or like their voice, you're going to switch off a bit, aren't you, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's not necessarily the topic. Or it might be sometimes that maybe it's their worldview, maybe it's how they pronounce themselves, maybe it's just too high energy or very low energy, and like I need something I need something I can connect with.
It's often humor as well. If like they'll they'll often say something funny every time multiple times during the episode. You're just waiting for the funny gags, aren't you?
Possibly, yeah. It's also, but the good thing is, like, sometimes, just like you have with your friend group, you get things picked up in your lexicon, so you get phrases or words that they use, but somehow you're now using them because you hear them so often.
Yeah.
So it's part of that personality thing. So having a personality, and a personality that will connect with people, or the way you project yourself, that's how you get an audience, because other people go like, I want to hang out with this person. And that's what a podcast is, really.
Which, do you know what? Goes straight into the next blooming point.
These smooth segues.
It is really
divine.
smooth, guys.
It's like we planned this.
So obviously we're looking at how your podcast can build your relationships with people, but also how it's used for marketing. And it doesn't always have to be one or the other. It can be both. So we're going to just talk about the relationship building and the marketing elements. So you've got your personal and your professional kind of elements, I suppose, with your sales. So what have we got to say on that?
Well, if you go, there are some podcasts that just feel like this is mostly just for marketing purposes. Where when that's the case, is you're losing the personal, because then it's clearly just a promotional tool.
Yeah.
And that's not fun, because it's usually, oddly enough, half the time is usually the finance ones. Usually the finance podcasts do feel like they are just promoting it's like a promotion of like being a financier.
Have you listened to many finance podcasts?
I have actually, I mean,
It sounds riveting.
I know it. Oh, but it's like ages and ages and ages ago, I applied to be a podcast producer for this company, and it mostly is business and finance. Now, obviously, it's quite dry on that end, but it does feel like the only ones that were really good were like, there was like one or two of them, that because the ones that really talked about more had a bit of a personality to them. They were a little bit more lighthearted, or a little bit, I think, optimistic, which is nice.
Yeah, so that's going back to what I said about, like, it doesn't matter sometimes what they're talking about. It's the people saying the topics and saying the conversation.
And then then we have the lack of energy ones, or the ones that are a bit more direct to the point. It feels like they're not really doing anything particular. They're now just it feels like they're marketing or promoting their brand of financing or their brand of business, and that's not what you want. You want people to come in for your personality and then be lured by your ideology, and so that's what that is really. It's important to have your marketing because you need to promote, but you can't be lacking on the other. If you have all the personality but you're not promoting yourself, then no one gets to hear you.
Yeah. I think as well, we live in a world where there is so much online and it's out there that people are predominantly going to connect with people first.
Yeah.
So if you are doing a podcast, think about doing a podcast, rather than sitting down and going straight into, we do this as a business and this is what we're selling, people will switch off. So in order to kind of like nurture that relationship, you need to be seen as a person and likable and discussing things that when you do want to do, maybe say an episode on heavy selling, you've kind of still got your supporters there, understanding the context, the bigger picture. Do you say that's about right?
You need to have, basically it's fine, you need to get that balance, and you need to get the right way of going across it, because otherwise you're just going to fall into one camp or the other.
Yeah.
So
next point then.
Okay.
How does a podcast build trust differently to social media?
Social media is horribly edited. It's very, like, if you look at something like TikTok, or look at TikTok, or look at social media, there's a horrible lack of authenticity.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that everything is heavily edited or clipped. And
Or AI now.
AI now.
Yeah, you never know what's real.
Exactly. Well, with a podcast, it's just us in a room for 30 minutes to an hour. And most of the time, that's not edited out. And you can't fake a personality unless you are on full performance mode. So that's what that does, is authentic. Social media, and also in social media you get clips, right? It's just clips, it's shorts. What you do is you just get the best bits, pop it up there, and then people go, oh, that's what it is. Because on social media it's all out of context.
Yeah.
You don't see the full thing. You only see the one thing.
It's much more smoke and mirrors, I suppose, isn't it? You can hide what you want to hide, show what you want to show, whereas this, it's all here.
It's more
transparent.
Yeah. Like, what was it? Like, I think I saw a video of it. I saw a video of when you, I think it was all the whole hustle about, like, all these influencers going to things like Dubai and all these places, right? And they think, they must be rich, they're loaded. Absolutely not. For example, they're on a plane. We're flying high class. That plane has never left the goddamn runway. And also, and it's not their plane. It's a plane they've rented so they can just take a cool couple of pictures for social media and then leave.
They don't know the plane, isn't it? It's just like, these are high flyers, but it's like you can do that with social media very easily, can't you? You can just like have that perception there. Let's just film on this plane for a bit. Like.
Yeah. Or this is my Lamborghini. This isn't your Lamborghini. You've rented for a day. It belongs to someone else. And you're just making a video to make you look better. That's what the big blowback is with a lot of social media, is this horrible lack of authenticity.
Yeah.
Here, and audience want authentic. People are now getting to the point they want real people, because we're now starting to see through the facade of, like, obviously very around this time we had the Louis Theroux Manosphere documentary, which really exposes the horrible inauthenticity of these terrible people.
Yeah, it's a good watch that was.
Yeah.
But shows off like that's really inauthentic. With a podcast, there is more authenticity to it. Yes, there's some people who would have a whole fake personality while they're doing it, but it feels less edited and less structured. So now you can just be more yourself, and and you will slip up. I bet even the people who do, even the really inauthentic people who are doing those podcasts, do slip up and suddenly say something that they actually do believe in, or they are actually saying something that's more them, and they go like, "Oh, that's interesting. There's a nice little quirky bit there. You say something in a funny way, or you do something different," and that's what we want, I think.
Okay, so starting before you understand what your message is, who do you want to listen to you?
So part of learning about your audience is knowing a bit about you, almost. So when you want to build an audience, half of that is really knowing who you are presenting yourself and who you are. So, not as a rephrase per se from that statement you said, but it could be more like, it's almost a kind of deep, isn't it? It's like saying, I need to know myself before others can listen to me. It feels very zen. Very zen.
Yeah.
It feels quite a zen. Like, I need to know who I am. Who am I? Shouting out in the dark, in the middle of the rain.
Especially if you're doing a podcast and you're going to be, talking about that particular thing like the entire time or whatever. You need to know, am I going to be able to...
Are you able to do it?
Yeah.
Are you confident in doing it? Especially if it's a subject. There's a venture I'm hoping to do, which is kind of putting me in the spot, because it's something I like. It's about films. I love movies. And it's film studies in particular. I want to do that. I want to do a podcast thing about that. But it's about me going through my entire film collection. I'm rewatching my entire film collection, which I've been collecting and then removing discs and DVDs and Blu-rays for 25 years. I now have about 680.
Wow.
It's a lot. But that just means that now I have to kind of look into myself a bit. It's like, why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this as something I want to document? And then from that, it'd be more like, well, who would want to listen to a near 40-year-old film buff go for his film collection? And that's where the audience comes in, because then it's like, okay, so maybe it's other people in a similar boat, so it's film collectors, people who've got like massive collections, and then realize I bought this DVD 20 years ago, I've only seen it once.
Well, straight away you've connected with an age group, haven't you? Because as soon as you put the 40 on it, there's a whole bunch of people around that age who goes, yes, I remember DVDs and I remember Blu-ray and things like that.
And also, or they're like, oh, I've got this massive collection and I'm going for the same problem. But then it might be like, this is something I even considered. Like, I have to watch all 680. That's a lot. That is, if I did one every day, that's nearly 2 years.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to have some way you watch more than one a day.
Either that,
of a session.
Either that, or I spread it out. But then by spreading it out more often, this might be a 5-year, 10-year venture.
Yeah. But
then by that point, it almost now becomes a different chronicling of myself. So there's a very interesting bit there. Like there's a movie called Boyhood. Do you remember the movie Boyhood?
Oh, that's the one where they shot a portion of it when they were younger, and they paused and then actually started refilming when the actors were actually older.
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
So,
Ethan
Hawke, isn't it?
The kid is like 5, but then every year they go back and film a scene with the kid. So by the end of the movie, he's 20.
Yeah,
that's 15
way
years.
Of doing it.
But by that point, that one's more fictional, it's performative. But what I find really fun about that one is that you see them grow. If I do this, like go for my movie collection thing and take it by that time, that's now a character growth of me. That's who am I at the end of it. I might change halfway through. But knowing that audience, that there is a key bit, and I'm hoping that similar people like myself will want to. I think it's more like, if you want to get to know who you are a little bit more, there's going to be, hopefully there's more people like you. Otherwise you're like one magical solo snowflake. And you're like, oh, I'm that special? No, we're not all that special. There are people who are going to be in similar boats. and people who will listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating idea because you're going to rediscover yourself through films,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Movies that I have bought, and movies that I remember buying but forgotten about. There's some still in the shrink wrap.
I've got something like that.
So I think if you know yourself, how you're going to do what the project is and why you are doing it, it will help you understand your audience better. And that means that you will hopefully be learning more about yourself or learning about your audience through that.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to our next point, we're going to discuss full dedicated episodes to your fan base.
There's quite a few there's quite a few podcasts that do that now.
Yeah, you have to have... You can't do it immediately. When you've got 5 followers, you can't have an episode just about those 5 comments. But when you've developed a following that's loyal and always commenting on your stuff, and maybe you've got a little Discord community or something like that, you'll have a decent amount of content there just from social media comments, things like that, that you can then dedicate that time to connect with them and actually just respond to it all. Because say you've built up a huge following, like we've got a pretty decent following now, like on our own channels and stuff like that. And you can't always reply to everyone. No. But if you're doing like a dedicated episode just to literally like, this person has said this, and then you do a reply to that in the episode, they're really going to appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's building that community up again. So having a full dedicated episode sometimes is quite fun. I've seen a lot of podcasts that do that. Some of them are on a weekly basis because they get like questions and they want to ask and that kind of thing.
But there is something you can do before you've got a huge following that's still interaction, which is things like polls. So like I want to talk about these selection of things on my episodes. Which would you like to hear on the next episode? And then when you got your results after a couple of days, you can then talk about that, and then the people who vote for that will feel like, yeah, I voted for that, and he's talking about that. So it's that connection then.
Same with like Q&As. So you can there's on Reddit. There's sometimes I have Reddit where say like ask me a question, and usually they get quite some famous people to go onto they're like some famous people to go onto Reddit, and what they do is they get like people to just post questions, and then they will reply to that. There's full Q&A stuff like that, live streams for Q&As. To a degree also Instagram does like ask me a question, and you type a short question and you can answer back. So that's the interactivity of it. I mean, getting the full dedicated episode means you can do all that and then just kind of gather all your data sounds terrible, but like all your answers and all your comments, all the fun stuff.
I suppose it's still coming back to our first point then about it being building a relationship and making your audience who's listening to you feel valued as well, and keeping engagement going, because it is about that. If someone, I suppose, isn't open to listen to what the audience have to say, what they think or anything, you're going to not go anywhere. You're not going to be able to develop what you want to say or talk about.
Yeah, it could be a segment as well. It doesn't have to be a full video or episode about that interaction. It could be at the end of the episode, as to close it off, you then read out some comments.
Comment of the day, joke of the day, comment of the day. Here's a funny picture, and it keeps them engaged. And also, it's like if you met, I do, sometimes it's appreciated when you're listening to something or you watch something you like. That happens all the time when you're watching a show you like and somebody mention you by name, you get really excited. Hopefully for good things, but you know what I mean. It's like, they're using my picture, my silly picture of a cat. Yeah, they're using that picture of mine. So. It's nice. It makes you feel more connected.
So what about live streams?
Interesting with that, because that's the chat now.
Yeah, that's literally, it's the same thing as like doing an episode about an interacting, but you're just doing it actually there and then. So it's that quick response. Because sometimes especially if you were doing like a long episode and it was heavily edited, like things like that, like say it's a YouTube video rather than a podcast, then sometimes it might be a long time before you actually get to the interaction element, but in terms of like, answering questions or whatever. But if it's a live stream, you're literally getting straight away, like if you bring up a point or whatever, you're getting the comments there back,
Yeah, and that's all in the chat. Now, the only downside to that is that unless you're doing a bit more of a private live stream, like let's say, there's podcasts and things like a Patreon where they have like a thing. And say, if you sign up to this Patreon and you pay something else, you get it privately and you only get your fans. That's really nice. But when you're putting it just on YouTube or you're putting it on something like that, not necessarily your audience will be. There's other people, and that's where it gets messy. Which is why you have things like mods who are there to keep the chat peaceful. Moderators, yeah. Because otherwise, you're going to have anyone and their grandmother can come in and can say something really bad, really offensive, something that could stir up controversy or make your community feel not comfortable.
Yeah.
So
it definitely does help, because we had a period where we were doing a lot of live streaming. A lot of people did live streaming during like lockdowns, stuff like that, because they had the time to do it. But we regularly did postings on Twitch, and it helped massively to have a moderator in the chat that any spam was coming or any like bad comments that are just there to be a bit of like a troll or whatever, just deleted straight away, cleaning it all up. So it was really nice.
Yeah, because it's like you want to build your fan base, you want more people to discover you, and that's what live streams can do. They can discover you. But sometimes the problem with that is that without a moderator, without some kind of rules to place your audience in a safe space, which is what your community wants to be, you want to be in a safe space. Anyone, the grandmother can come in and ruin the time. It's like you have a house party, you invite all your friends in, and then you got your dirty neighbor that just walked in. You don't like them. They've walked in and they've just literally decided to just smear dirt all over your house and then walk away. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, great.
And you always get people that want to say something just for the sake of saying something.
Yeah.
But what I would like to know, actually, is in terms of being a newbie to doing podcasting or a professional who's done it for a long time, would you say live stream is more suitable to more a professional? Because we always talk about having a clear message, conveying what you want to say. If you're, say, brand new, episode 1, and you go into a live stream and say you miraculously get lots of people in the chat room, how do you then focus on what you want to say if you're constantly distracted?
I think it's not. I think if you're brand spanking new at this, don't do a live stream. It's your first episode.
No,
it needs
don't do
time.
Yeah, you kind of need to make. If you would say it was a podcast and it was live, you'd have to have another guest on or a number of guests, and then it'll just be like, I'll have a segment where we look at the chat and interact with it, not constantly be distracted by it. So it's kind of like, I think that would be okay, but I don't think as first off, like when you're kicking off a podcast, go straight into live. It's quite ambitious.
All right, we'll do it live.
Because you might be someone who already maybe has a big following, but decide, I'm going to do a podcast now. So you might start your podcast and straight away have your door open to hundreds, thousands of people. But if you're still new to podcasting, we would be saying live streaming is not the way forward to start.
I think it's because you need to. I think because you need to establish what your show is.
Yeah.
Who, again, going back to who are you and what is a show?
Yeah.
And if you're doing a live stream, you sometimes, especially newbies, might fall to the pressure of let's do what the crowd wants us to do. You're falling to the mob mentality.
A lot of voices out there.
Yeah, and a lot of them are going like, "Oh, do a thing," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll do a thing." And then what happens is you become a bit more of a dancing monkey. Then you are your own show or your own personality.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you want to be. You want the people who come to you because they like you, they like the concept of the show, they like what you're talking about, they like all this. They don't want to suddenly come in and sort of discover it, and then you sort of like, if we tell him to do this, he will do that.
Yeah.
Like so sort of like a jester, and that's not the case.
I mean, that for that reason, that's a lot of the time we haven't done so many live streams in terms of podcasts, because I don't want the fans to all of a sudden start ganging up on us and saying like, I want you to do a podcast about like
this thing,
Chris Packet designs from the 1980s. That's nostalgic. I don't want to do that, you know.
Yeah, and then afterwards they come back to you later on going, why are you not come up with my crisp idea? Why are you not come up with my crisp idea? And then it just gets really, really awkward. You want that thing. So that's, live streaming is an art form, I guess, for some people. Some people will literally do, like I said, be the dancing monkey jester thing. Yeah. Those are those weird, horrible, pranky.
Yeah, it's people taking advantage of you then, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not listening to what you have to say for your podcast. So that actually brings me on to our last topic point for today, which is about the importance of creating a good community over maybe an impressive portfolio.
Got it. Yeah, because you can spend loads of time making really, really good content, but if you don't have a good community behind it, it makes it a bit more awkward. I feel like you want it to be impressive, you want to make good stuff, but really I think the more important thing is the community part and the fact that it's a good, healthy community. Because with that encourages you to make good stuff for them, I think.
But it's like what I was saying right at the beginning about that, like that community can then carry on perhaps. If you stop making content, then you've built that little family there of your audience that will then they're all friends in there. So it's kind of like it's one of those strange things where, and then you could dip it back into that like fan group and like, oh, I built that. Yeah, it's a quite exciting little thing and that's more important, I think.
There's a wrestling podcast I listen to, and they have like a full community, and they're called the Friendos, which is awesome. So basically, and they have merchandise and stuff like that, but they have merchandise to the point that when they walk around the street, they say, "You're a friendo, you're a friendo, you're a friendo," and then suddenly they're just like walking down the street, they see a friendo, someone who listens to the podcast, and they instantly become buddies, and they go to the pub afterwards and have a good time. Yeah. I'm like, I want that. That sounds awesome.
Sounds like a really pleasant cult.
Yeah. Very happy. You're a friendo.
It's connections and having straight away that being able to relate to somebody and having that mutual kind of like, yes, we both like that, and it just brings you together.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you can have a really impressive do the portfolio thing. Like I want this to look very swish. I want to do these big fancy things. And you know what the polar opposite is, and this is where I'm going to fall into it. I might get some beef on this because it's on YouTube.
Brian, what's the beef?
Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is all let's make an impressive portfolio, but his community, to me personally, it's not a healthy one. It's all about let's spend all this money making over extravagant spectacle videos, and you've got like the Beast games and all that kind of stuff. That portfolio over community, because the community comes from building that things, but now the community's not the most important thing now. It's more about, can I make the most expensive YouTube video? Can I do, for example, the one he did, like Squid Games in real life? Or, this thing and that thing. Or I'm going to give £1 billion to this thing. It no longer feels like a community-driven thing. It feels more like a creator-driven portfolio spectacle that's now actually becoming more and more hollow.
And that's natural. That comes naturally sometimes to people with huge followings, doesn't it? Because they're disconnected from that big following because they don't know they can't connect with them all, basically.
So could you argue that someone like that has maybe gone more into the realms of it just being social media?
Yeah, exactly.
Than it being about a podcast that's authentic, real, human, knows what it is, and that's sort of gone out of proportion.
Yeah, because Mr. Beast's way of making videos is, and this is the most terrifying thing, he and his army of like team basically will may have an idea. They'll pitch one idea, but then what they'll do is, instead of talking about whether it's actually achievable or whether it's affordable, they'll try and make about 50 thumbnails and say, if it's a good thumbnail, we'll make the video.
Wow.
So that's 100%. We're only looking for views. We're only looking for data. We want it to be, our video should be in the billions and not about the thing. I know I'm going to get stuff from
that's
Mr.
a
Beast
strange old-fashioned way of marketing, actually. Because remember when they used to make movie posters and then post them around and then make the film like based on if people responded to that poster.
I keep seeing that at the moment, on Facebook. They bring up like remakes of things with really kind of like cool recent actors and actresses in it, and it's AI. It doesn't actually exist, but they're waiting in the comments. And you
like,
think, is there an agenda here?
I'd love a sequel to this. Or back in the old days, we're going even weirder, in the 50s, sometimes they wouldn't even have a script. They would literally just have a title for a movie. And they say like, right, these all sound really awesome titles. Like, The Navigator 5000. It's like, can you make a movie called The Navigator 5000? I don't know, but it's a really cool title. Go and make that movie.
I wonder if that's where the phrase "never judge a book by its cover" sort of comes from.
Yeah, because like, oh, it looks really cool. Look in the book, it's empty.
Yeah, because it's almost like clickbait, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, click on this. We don't care what's inside it, but, you know, click on it and we'll take your views and we're really popular and it puts your rankings up. So,
Yeah.
dangerous.
With a good community, though, you don't need clickbait.
No, it's more an organic sort of growth, isn't it? With like-minded people, it's relationship building.
Yeah.
But that whole thumbnail attraction thing it's fascinating that's been brought up that point, because that it literally is like the algorithm works well with the thumbnail now.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as when they used to make films, like a lot of B movies were made so you'd be attracted to them in the video shop.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, oh, that cover is great on the shelf there in that video shop. I'll pick that up and go, but it doesn't matter what the film's like. It was like, if you could draw the audience in and get them to rent it, it's exactly the same thing with the algorithms on YouTube thumbnails.
Yeah, like if you remember like going to Blockbuster or going like getting a DVD or going to like going to video stores, there are some of them which they have like this really striking cover. And it's really awesome, really good artwork. It's beautiful. You look at it and go like, yeah, I think I will watch The Stranglers Part 5. Cool. It's got a really cool poster though.
And that person on the front isn't in the film.
It's not even in the movie. It looks like a different thing. It's
So,
like, yeah.
what's our thumbnail for this episode going to be?
It can't be a very clickbaity thing.
We will fully AI it, and it'll just be like it'll be like anime versions of us.
There
doing
must
power
be a
poses.
psychology behind what people are drawn to as to what makes a good thumbnail. This would be interesting. Like what we could use as a thumbnail that would make people go, "I'm watching that."
Apparently, you're supposed to like have a big like face of someone on one side of the thumbnail reacting to something, and then like big text or a subject of what it's about on the other side, and that's meant to be the formula for a good thumbnail.
Template.
We need a Luminary version of that then. Who's going to be big face?
There's three faces, isn't there? One where it's sort of like questioning.
Yeah.
There's the other one where it's like shock, and the other one which is sort of like really upset, like dour.
Thumbs down, like.
Yeah.
They're really angry.
Right.
Yeah, those are it. So basically, those are it.
So we have some great shots for our thumbnail for today from that.
That'll be great. But yeah, wonderful. So I think we've been able to answer those questions.
Yeah, I think it's a wrap, guys.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kylie from Luminary. If you've enjoyed listening to us, feel free to book our space at lumenvision.co.uk. This is our lounge setup, and we have plenty of other setups for you to choose from that are perfect for you. Hope to see you soon.